Hello guys. Welcome to Pika Fiction. So in this video, we will see what if Ash awakened psychic powers and his harem was led by Sabrina and Anabel. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1. The fracture. The air atop Mount Silver didn't just bite, it severed. At this altitude, the wind was a physical weight, a howling wall of ice and pressure that stripped the warmth from blood and cracked stone. Ash Ketchum wiped a smear of half-frozen grit from his cheek, his breath hitching in his throat. He stood on a jagged plateau, the world falling away into white mist on all sides. 10 yards away, a tyranitar roared, a sound like tectonic plates grinding together. The pseudo-legendary was feral, an alpha of the mountain that had taken exception to Ash's presence. "Hold the line," Ash said. His voice wasn't a shout, but it cut through the gale with practiced authority. In front of him, Lucario dropped into a combat stance, the aura appendages behind his head flowing like underwater ribbons. To his left, Pikachu's cheeks sparked, the electrical discharge smelling of ozone and burnt iron. The Tyranitar didn't wait. It lunged, crushing the granite beneath its claws, a mountain of green armor moving with impossible speed. "Flash cannon," Ash commanded. "Pikachu, Iron Tail on the pivot." The response was instantaneous. Lucario fired a sphere of silver light that slammed into the Tyranitar's chest, staggering the beast. In the same heartbeat, Pikachu became a yellow blur, swinging a hardened tail into the creature's knee joint. But the Tyranitar was old, scarred, and smart. It absorbed the flash cannon, using the momentum to spin, its tail whipping around like a siege weapon. It caught Pikachu mid-air. "Pikachu." Ash stepped forward, instinct overriding strategy. The little electric type slammed into a rock face with a sickening crunch. The Tyranitar roared again, its mouth glowing with the chaotic orange energy of a hyper beam. It wasn't aiming at Lucario, it was aiming at Ash. Time seemed to thicken. Ash saw the energy gathering in the beast's maw. He saw Lucario scrambling, too far away to intercept. He saw the terrified widening of Pikachu's eyes. "Move," Ash thought. But his legs were lead. The cold had seeped too deep. The hyper beam fired. It wasn't a beam of light, it was a column of annihilation. The sound died, replaced by a high-pitched whine that drilled into the center of Ash's skull. He raised his hands, a futile, human gesture against a force of nature. "Stop." The command didn't come from his throat. It erupted from the base of his spine, tearing through his nervous system like a live wire. It was a scream of pure, primal rejection. The world turned white. Then, it turned violet. The sound of the explosion didn't happen for 3 seconds. When it did, it shattered the plateau. Ash woke up to the taste of copper. He was lying on his back. The sky above was a swirling vortex of gray clouds, but the snow had stopped falling. Or rather, it wasn't allowed to fall. 10 feet above him, the snowflakes were vaporizing against an invisible barrier. Ash groaned, rolling onto his side. Every nerve ending in his body felt raw, as if he'd been skinned. He pushed himself up, his hands trembling. "Lucario." "Pikachu." "Master." The voice echoed inside his head, clear as a bell, but laced with a terrifying static. Ash looked up. Lucario was standing 10 feet away, staring at him. The jackal Pokémon looked horrified. "I can hear you," Ash whispered. He touched his forehead. His skin was burning hot. Loud. Too loud. He looked around. The plateau was gone. In its place was a perfect, concave crater, the stone fused into smooth glass. And the Tyranitar? Ash saw the beast crumpled against the far wall of the crater. It wasn't dead, but it was unconscious, massive cracks running along its armor as if it had been hit by a freight train. But Ash hadn't touched it. "Pikachu." Ash scrambled over the glass-slick ground to the yellow form lying near the edge. Pikachu was awake, ears flattened against his skull. When Ash reached out, Pikachu flinched. The reaction was a knife to the heart. "Buddy, it's me," Ash murmured, keeping his voice soft. "It's okay." He reached out to stroke Pikachu's fur. Before his fingers made contact, a spark of blue energy arced from his fingertip to Pikachu's ear. Pikachu yelped. Ash yanked his hand back, staring at his own palm. The air around his fingers was warping, shimmering like heat haze. He flexed his hand, and the loose rocks at his feet rattled. He clenched his fist, and a boulder the size of a watermelon imploded into dust. "What is happening to me?" Ash whispered. "Your aura, it is a storm," Lucario projected, stepping closer cautiously. "It is not staying inside, it is spilling out, consuming." Ash closed his eyes, trying to find the calm center he used during battles. But there was no center. There was only a roaring ocean of sensory input. He could feel the heartbeat of the unconscious Tyranitar. He could feel the panic in a colony of Zubat a mile underground. He could feel the tectonic stress of the mountain itself. It was too much. He clamped his hands over his ears, but the noise wasn't auditory. Alert! Biological anomaly detected. Sector 4. The mechanical voice didn't come from his head, it came from the sky. Ash's eyes snapped open. The headache flared, spiking into a lance of pain. "Company," he gritted out. 3 shapes descended from the cloud layer. They weren't Pokemon. They were sleek, matte black drones, shaped like arrowheads, humming with the unmistakable whine of repulsor engines. No markings, no league insignia. "Who are they?" Ash stood up, his legs shaking. One of the drones scanned him with a beam of red light. Target confirmed. Subject: Ketchum. Threat level: critical. Authorization to pacify granted. Pacify? Ash growled. The fear was vanishing, replaced by a cold, boiling irritation. "Lucario, get Pikachu behind cover." "Master, you cannot. Go." The lead drone didn't hesitate. Panels on its wings slid open, revealing rotating barrels. It opened fire. It wasn't bullets. It was concussive sonic rounds, designed to incapacitate heavy Pokemon. The air rippled as the barrage hammered the ground where Ash stood. Ash didn't dodge. He didn't have to. He threw his right hand forward, palm open. He didn't think about a move. He just wanted the noise to stop. The air in front of him solidified. The sonic rounds impacted an invisible wall, exploding in harmless bursts of distortion. Ash gritted his teeth, feeling the impacts vibrate up his arm. Push. He shoved his hand forward. The invisible wall became a battering ram. The lead drone was caught in a gravity well of localized force. Metal screamed as the drone was crunched into a ball of scrap, as easily as a soda can. The other 2 drones broke formation, flanking him. "Left," Ash barked. He didn't signal Lucario, he simply pulled at the air. The drone on the left jerked sideways, its engine stalling as Ash mentally seized its turbine. He swung his arm down, and the drone smashed into the crater floor, exploding in a fireball. The headache was blinding now. Blood began to trickle from Ash's nose. The final drone pulled up, hovering high out of reach. A canister dropped from its underbelly. "Gas!" Ash choked out. Purple smoke hissed from the canister, expanding rapidly. Sleep powder, concentrated. Ash fell to one knee, his vision blurring. He couldn't hold his breath long enough. He needed wind. He needed a gust. Pathetic. The voice sliced through the chaos in his mind. It was a woman's voice, elegant, bored, and colder than the mountain ice. Ash froze. The voice wasn't Lucario. It wasn't sound. It was a direct intrusion. "You have a sledgehammer, boy, and you are using it to crack walnuts. Look at the debris." Ash looked at the burning wreckage of the drone. "Lift it." "Get out of my head," Ash snarled. "Die, then." The gas was closing in. Lucario was holding his breath, clutching Pikachu. Ash roared, grabbing the burning wreckage with his mind. It felt heavy, searingly hot against his mental grip. He screamed with effort, whipping the flaming metal debris through the air. It spun like a discus, generating a vortex of wind that scattered the purple smoke. The wreckage slammed into the final drone, obliterating it. Silence returned to the mountain. Ash collapsed onto his hands and knees, gasping for air. The blood from his nose dripped onto the white snow, stark and red. "Sloppy," the voice in his head said, "but effective." "Who?" Ash wiped his face, smearing the blood. "Who are you?" "You know who I am. You have felt my mind before, years ago, though you were nothing but a loud, irritating child then." A mental image flashed in Ash's mind. A gym. A dollhouse. A woman with long, dark hair and eyes that held the void. "Sabrina," Ash whispered. The fracture in your mind sent a shockwave across the region. Ash Ketchum. You rang a bell that cannot be unrung. The League has sensors for this frequency. They call it Class Omega. Those drones. Project Null. A Black Ops division. They don't capture wild psychics. They vivisect them. Ash looked at Lucario, then down at his own hands. The energy was still there, humming under his skin, waiting to lash out. I can't control it. No, you can't. And within 48 hours, your brain will liquefy from the strain. Or Null will put a bullet in it. Whichever comes first. Help me. The words tasted like ash. I do not offer charity. I offer an exchange. Come to Saffron. If you can make it past the blockade they're setting up, I will teach you how to keep your head from exploding. If you fail, well, I suppose I'll have less competition. The presence in his mind began to fade, receding like a tide. Wait, Ash shouted. Don't take the roads. Sabrina's voice drifted back, faint now. They're watching the roads. Then she was gone. Ash sat in the snow for a long time. Lucario approached, placing a paw on Ash's shoulder. The aura connection was still painful, but Ash grit his teeth and bore it. We can't go back to Pallet, Ash said, his voice hollow. If they're hunting me, Mom. The thought made the ground tremble. Ash forced himself to breathe. Control. Lock it down. We're going to Saffron, Ash said, standing up. He felt different. The boy who wanted to be a master was still there, but he was buried under layers of survival instinct. He recalled Charizard from his belt. The flame on the dragon's tail burned brightly against the gray sky. Charizard looked at Ash, then snorted, sensing the change. The dragon lowered its neck, allowing Ash to climb on without the usual playful defiance. We fly low, Ash told his team. Nap of the earth. We hunt them before they hunt us. The journey to Kanto was a blur of adrenaline and stealth. They moved at night. Ash didn't sleep. He couldn't. Every time he closed his eyes, the telekinetic pressure built up behind his eyelids until he had to release it. Snapping tree branches, crushing stones, parting the clouds. He learned quickly that his emotions were the trigger. Fear made things explode. Anger made them heavy. Focus. Focus made them sharp. By the time the skyline of Saffron City came into view, it was dusk on the second day. The city was glowing, a beacon of civilization in the twilight. But surrounding the city perimeter was a ring of floodlights and temporary checkpoints. They were grounded 3 miles out, hidden in a dense copse of trees. It's a siege, Ash murmured, peering through digital binoculars he'd scavenged from a null supply cache they'd raided near Cerulean. The main highway into Saffron was choked with armored vehicles. Not police cars. Military-grade transports. Men in black tactical gear patrolled with Houndooms and Manectrics. Dark types. They were specifically equipped to counter psychics. They know I'm coming, Ash said. Pikachu sat on his shoulder. The little mouse was wary now, constantly scanning the perimeter. The bond between them had changed. Ash could feel the static electricity in Pikachu's cheeks as a physical sensation on his own skin. We can't sneak in, Ash assessed. They have thermal, motion, and aura scanners. He looked at Lucario. If we fight, we reveal everything. Lucario nodded. But if we do not fight, we die in the woods. Ash lowered the binoculars. He felt the hum of the city in the distance. He felt Sabrina there, a dark, cold star in the center of the urban sprawl. She was waiting. Watching. No sneaking, Ash said, his eyes hardening. We knock. The checkpoint at the west gate was fortified with concrete barriers and automated turrets. Captain Vance, a man with a face like a clenched fist, watched the monitors inside the command truck. Thermal spike, an operator shouted. Approaching on the main road, high velocity. Vehicle. Vance barked. Negative. Biological. It's running. Vance grabbed the radio. All units, weapons free. Target is Class A hostile. Engage on sight. On the road, Ash was sprinting. He wasn't using Pokemon to carry him. He was running, his speed unnaturally enhanced by the telekinetic push against his heels. He moved like a phantom, his coat whipping behind him. A spotlight hit him, blindingly bright. Halt! A voice boomed from a loudspeaker. By order of the Pokemon League Special Operations. Ash didn't slow down. He reached out with his mind and shoved. The heavy steel gate, weighing 2 tons, groaned and tore off its hinges. It flew backward, tumbling down the highway and crashing into a parked transport truck. Gunfire erupted. Rubber bullets and containment nets filled the air. Pikachu, Thunderbolt. Wide arc. Pikachu leapt from Ash's shoulder, becoming a bolt of lightning. The electricity didn't just arc randomly. Ash guided it. He felt the flow of electrons and bent them, creating a shield of lightning that vaporized the nets and detonated the incoming projectiles. Ash leapt through the smoke, landing on the hood of a null Humvee. Two guards aimed their rifles. Ash glared at them. His eyes glowed with a faint, blue luminescence. Sleep. He didn't shout it. He projected the concept of heaviness directly into their brain stems. The guards' eyes rolled back, and they collapsed instantly. Don't kill them, Ash shouted to himself, fighting the urge to crush the vehicle beneath him. The power wanted to destroy. He had to leash it. A Houndoom lunged from the shadows, jaws snapping. Dark types were immune to psychic damage, but they weren't immune to physics. Lucario, Aura Sphere. Lucario materialized from the smoke, driving a sphere of blue energy into the Houndoom's flank, sending it skidding across the pavement. Keep moving, Ash commanded. They carved a path of wreckage through the blockade. Vehicles were flipped. Drones were crushed. But more were coming. Sirens wailed from the city. Ash reached the city limits. The skyscrapers loomed above him. Suddenly, the pressure vanished. The null soldiers chasing him stopped dead. The drones hovering above froze in midair. Ash skidded to a halt, breathing hard. He looked around. The soldiers weren't just stopping, they were paralyzed. A faint, purple aura surrounded them, lifting them inches off the ground. A woman stood at the intersection of the empty street ahead. She wore a long, maroon trench coat over a fitted bodysuit. Her hair was straight, black, and cascaded down to her waist. Her expression was one of supreme, devastating boredom. Sabrina. She raised one gloved hand, and a dozen null soldiers were flung violently backward, sliding hundreds of feet away from the city entrance. She lowered her hand and looked at Ash. Her eyes were abyssals, deep and terrifying. "You're late," she said. Her voice wasn't telepathic this time. It was smooth, rich, and audible. Ash straightened up, wiping blood from his lip. He recalled Lucario and Pikachu to his side. He stepped forward, meeting her gaze. The air between them crackled with static tension, his raw, chaotic power clashing against her refined, icy control. "Traffic was bad," Ash said. Sabrina's lip curled. It wasn't quite a smile, but it was close. "Follow me, Ash Ketchum," she turned, her coat flaring, "and try not to bleed on my pavement." Ash looked back at the destruction he had caused, the twisted metal, the unconscious soldiers. He had crossed a line. He was an enemy of the state now. He turned forward, his fists clenching. He followed the Psychic Queen into the dark heart of Saffron City. Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. The Gilded Cage. Saffron City didn't sleep, but from the penthouse suite of the Sylph Company Tower, Sabrina's private estate, it looked like a silent circuit board of gold and neon. Ash stood by the floor-to-ceiling glass, his reflection ghostly against the city lights. He wore clean clothes for the first time in 3 days. A charcoal gray training gi provided by the gym. It was stiff, unfamiliar, and lacked the worn comfort of his travel gear. He pressed his hand against the glass. A spiderweb of cracks instantly formed under his palm. "Control," a voice murmured from the shadows behind him. "You are leaking again." Ash snatched his hand back. The glass held, though the spiderweb remained. He turned to face the room. It was vast, minimalist, and cold. White marble floors, black leather furniture, and a distinct lack of personal touches. It felt less like a home and more like a containment unit. Sabrina sat in a high-backed chair in the center of the room, her legs crossed. She was sipping tea from a cup that hovered 3 inches from her fingers. "I didn't mean to," Ash said, frustration tightening his chest. "Intention is irrelevant to gravity," Sabrina replied smoothly. The cup floated to her lips, tilted, and then set itself down on the table. "You are a loaded gun with a faulty safety mechanism, Ash. If you cannot seal your mind, you will bring this building down on top of us." Ash walked toward her. He felt the hum of her power, a low, constant vibration in the air, like standing near a high-voltage pylon. It was intimidating, but after the chaos of Mount Silver, it was also oddly grounding. "So teach me," Ash said. "You said you would." Sabrina's eyes, dark and unreadable, tracked him. I said I would prevent your brain from liquefying. Teaching you to be competent is a different negotiation. She stood up. She was taller than him in her heels, her presence filling the room. My gym is closed to challengers. The League has locked down the city perimeter. Director Vance has labeled you a terrorist. You have nowhere to go. She stepped into his personal space. Ash held his ground, though every instinct screamed at him to back away. The scent of her, ozone and lilacs, was overwhelming. You belong to me now, she whispered. Mind and body, until I decide you are ready. Ash looked her in the eye. I'm not a Pokemon, Sabrina. I don't belong to anyone. Sabrina smiled, a rare, sharp expression. We shall see, to the dojo. The dojo was located in the sub-basement of the gym, a massive chamber lined with psychic dampening lead plates. There were no windows. The only light came from glowing runes etched into the floor. The concept is simple, Sabrina announced. She stood at the far end of the room. Psychic power is the imposition of will upon reality. You are currently trying to shout at reality. You need to whisper. Ash stood in the center of the circle. Lucario was seated on a bench nearby, meditating, while Pikachu watched nervously from the sidelines. Defend yourself, Sabrina said. She didn't move a muscle. Suddenly, the air around Ash turned to solid iron. He gasped, dropping to one knee. It wasn't a physical weight. It was a mental crush. It felt as if he were at the bottom of the ocean. His lungs couldn't expand. His heart struggled to pump. Push back, Sabrina's voice echoed, not in the room, but inside his skull. Create a shell. Visualize it. Do not fight the ocean. Become the submarine. Ash gritted his teeth. Veins bulged on his neck. He tried to shove the pressure away, like he had with the drones, but this was different. This was fluid. Every time he pushed, Sabrina's power flowed around his defense and crushed him harder. I can't. Breathe. Then die, she replied coldly. If you pass out, I will let the pressure break your ribs. Prove you want to live. Panic flared. Real, primal panic. Ash looked up, vision tunneling. He saw Sabrina's face, impassive, waiting. She wasn't bluffing. She would hurt him to make him learn. He closed his eyes. He stopped trying to push the weight out. Instead, he imagined a sphere around his body. A small, tight bubble of aura. He pulled his energy in, condensing it, hardening it. Solid. I am solid. The crushing weight halted. It was still there, pressing in, but he had carved out a few inches of space. He took a jagged breath. Good, Sabrina said. The pressure vanished instantly. Ash collapsed forward, catching himself on his hands, sweat dripping from his nose. Again, Sabrina commanded. Give me a minute, Ash wheezed. Enemies do not give minutes. Again. The weight slammed back down, heavier than before. They trained for 6 hours. By the time Sabrina called a halt, Ash was bruised, bleeding from the nose, and trembling with exhaustion. But he was standing. He had managed to hold a defensive barrier for 3 continuous minutes. Sabrina walked over to him, handing him a towel. It was a surprisingly human gesture. Ash took it, wiping the grime from his face. You have raw potential, she admitted, her voice lacking its usual mockery. More than I did at your age. Your connection to the aura gives your telekinesis a physical texture. It's heavy. Is that good? Ash asked, leaning against the wall. It is blunt, but effective. She paused, looking at the door. Go shower, we have a guest. Ash stiffened. The Null soldiers. No, Sabrina's eyes narrowed. Something more complicated, the International Police. The main lobby of the Saffron Gym was a cavernous space, usually filled with trainers. Now, it was empty, save for one woman standing by the reception desk. She wore a lavender suit that was impeccably tailored, with a salon maiden's crest pinned to the lapel. Her lilac hair was cut short, framing a face that was gentle but guarded. Anabel. When Ash and Sabrina emerged from the elevator, Anabel turned. Her eyes widened slightly when she saw Ash, battered, exhausted, and radiating a palpable psychic distortion. Sabrina, Anabel said, her voice polite but firm, and Ash Ketchum. You're a long way from the battle frontier, Anabel, Sabrina said, stepping in front of Ash slightly. A protective gesture? Or a possessive one? I wasn't aware the international police did house calls. We do when there are reports of a Class Omega energy signature, Anabel replied. She looked at Ash, her gaze softening. Director Vance has issued a kill order, Ash. He claims you destroyed a mountain and killed 3 pilots. They shot first, Ash said, his voice hoarse. I was defending my team. Anabel closed her eyes for a second. When she opened them, they were glowing with a faint, empathic light. I know, she said quietly. I can feel it. You're scared and angry, but you're not a murderer. She looked at Sabrina. Vance has authorized a tactical strike on this building. He thinks you're harboring a fugitive. I am harboring a student, Sabrina corrected icily. If Vance wants him, he can come and take him. I'll turn his bones to glass. Sabrina, be reasonable, Anabel pleaded, stepping forward. You can't fight the entire Null Division alone. They have dark tech, artificial dampeners. So what do you suggest? Ash asked. I turn myself in. No, Anabel said. I'm here to evaluate you. My report determines whether the international police backs Vance or intervenes to stop him. If I can prove you're in control of your powers, I can grant you temporary asylum under the Frontier Brain Authority. Sabrina laughed. It was a sharp, cruel sound. A test. You want to test him? He just learned how to shield his own mind an hour ago. Then he learns fast, Anabel said, her expression hardening. She reached for a Pokeball at her belt. A battle. Standard rules. But you fight alongside your Pokemon, Ash. Show me you can sync without losing yourself. Ash looked at Sabrina. The Psychic Queen looked bored, but her eyes gleamed with interest. Fine, Sabrina said. But a 2-on-1 is hardly fair. I'll join in. A triad spar. Anabel blinked. You? If he is to survive Vance, he needs to handle chaos, Sabrina said. She floated backward, hovering over the battlefield. Me against you against him. No holding back. Ash unclipped a Pokeball. He felt a surge of adrenaline. Not the destructive panic from the mountain, but the familiar, fiery thrill of a challenge. Let's do it, Ash said. The arena was set. Sabrina summoned her Alakazam. The Psy Pokemon sat in a lotus position, spoons crossed, radiating pure, distorted power. Anabel released a Metagross. The massive steel spider landed with a heavy thud, its red eyes scanning the room with cold calculation. Ash stepped forward with Lucario. Begin, Sabrina whispered. Alakazam didn't move. It simply flashed. A psychic blast erupted, aiming not at Lucario, but at Anabel's Metagross. Meteor Mash. Anabel commanded. The Metagross moved with terrifying speed for its size, its fist glowing like a comet as it swatted the psychic energy aside. The impact shook the room. Lucario, Bone Rush. Ash yelled. Lucario dashed forward, generating a staff of blue energy. He aimed for Alakazam, trying to close the gap. Predictable, Sabrina noted. Alakazam teleported, it reappeared directly behind Ash. Not Lucario. Ash. Sabrina fired a bolt of telekinetic force at Ash's back. Ash, look out! Anabel cried out. Ash didn't turn. He didn't have time. But he felt the ripple in the air. He felt the intent. Duck. He didn't shout the command. He thought it, and he didn't just think it for himself. He thought it for Lucario. In perfect unison, Ash dropped flat, the psychic bolt whistling over his head. Simultaneously, Lucario, who was 20 feet away, dropped into a slide, dodging a meteor mash from Anabel's Metagross. Ash rolled to his feet. Now, Aura Sphere. He threw his hand forward. Lucario mirrored the motion. A sphere of energy launched from Lucario's palms, but it was encased in a secondary layer of jagged, violet light, Ash's psychic power. The enhanced Aura Sphere slammed into Alakazam before it could teleport, sending the psychic type tumbling backward. What was that? Anabel gasped. Synchronization, Sabrina murmured, her eyes widening. He's boosting the move. Don't let up, Ash yelled. He felt the connection with Lucario burning in his veins. He could see through Lucario's eyes. He could feel the texture of the floor under Lucario's paws. Metagross, Zen headbutt on Lucario. Anabel ordered, shifting tactics. Intercept. Ash thought. He didn't wait for Lucario. Ash reached out with his hand and pulled on a loose rack of dumbbells near the wall. The heavy iron weights flew through the air, intercepting the Metagross. The steel spider swatted them away, but the distraction bought them a second. Close combat. Lucario was inside Metagross's guard instantly, pummeling the steel plating with aura-infused fists. Sabrina wasn't done. Shadow Ball. Alakazam fired a ghost energy sphere. Ash saw it coming in his peripheral vision. He couldn't dodge it, and Lucario was busy. Ash threw up his hand. Shield. The bubble he practiced earlier manifested. The shadow ball struck Ash's psychic shield and exploded. The force skidded Ash backward 3 feet, his boots squealing on the floor, but the shield held. He dropped the barrier and locked eyes with Anabel. "Is that enough control for you?" Ash shouted, chest heaving. Anabel stared at him. She saw the aura flaring around him, blue mixed with violet. He wasn't just commanding the Pokémon, he was fighting as a unit. He was the trainer and the Pokémon at the same time. "Stop," Anabel called out, recalling her Metagross. The room fell silent. Alakazam vanished into its ball as Sabrina descended to the floor. Ash fell to his knees, the adrenaline crashing. Lucario rushed to his side to support him. Sabrina walked over, her heels clicking on the floor. She looked down at Ash, a strange expression on her face. Not pride, exactly, but something like possessive satisfaction. "You are chaotic," Sabrina said, "but you are not weak." Anabel approached slowly. She knelt beside Ash, reaching out to touch his arm. A spark of empathy passed between them, a warm, golden feeling that soothed the jagged edges of Ash's headache. "I've never seen a bond like that," Anabel whispered. "You didn't just give orders, you shared the physical load." "It's the only way I know how to fight," Ash muttered, leaning into her touch instinctively. It felt like sunlight. Sabrina's eyes flicked to Annabel's hand on Ash's arm. The temperature in the room dropped 5 degrees. "He passed your test," Sabrina said sharply. "Now, are you going to help us, or are you going to file your report?" Anabel stood up, withdrawing her hand, though she looked reluctant to break the contact. Her face hardened into the mask of the Salon Maiden. "Vance is moving a battalion to the city limits," Anabel said. "He's bypassing the lead council. He's going rogue." "So he's coming tonight," Ash said, standing up with Lucario's help. "Yes," Anabel nodded. She looked from Ash to Sabrina. "My report will say that Ash Ketchum is a stabilizing element. But by the time the paperwork clears, Vance will have leveled this block." "Then we leave," Ash said. "Leave?" Sabrina scoffed. "This is my city. I do not run." "We don't run," Ash corrected her, his eyes flashing with a new, dangerous confidence. "We relocate to a battlefield where we have the advantage. If we stay here, civilians get hurt. I won't have that." He looked at the 2 women, the Psychic Queen and the Empath. Both powerful, both looking at him for direction. "There's a magnet train line that runs underground toward Johto," Ash said. "It's narrow, dark, and fast. Vance's numbers won't matter in a tunnel." Sabrina considered this, then nodded slowly. "A kill box." "An escape route," Anabel corrected, though she checked her pistol. Ash walked toward the exit, the other 2 falling into step beside him. "Call it whatever you want," Ash said. "But we're leaving, and if they try to stop us, we break them." Chapter 2 and Chapter 3. Hunter and Prey. The magnet train terminal was a tomb of dead air and flickering emergency lights. It had been shut down hours ago, the result of a biological containment protocol issued by Director Vance. The silence was heavy, broken only by the distant, rhythmic thrum of the city's power grid. Ash, Sabrina, and Anabel moved through the maintenance tunnels beneath the platform. The air here was stale, smelling of ozone and rusted iron. "They know we're here," Anabel whispered. She was checking a handheld tracking device, her brow furrowed. "The localized net is swarming with encrypted signals. Vance has deployed the Ghost unit." "Ghosts?" Ash asked, adjusting the straps of his backpack. He felt twitchy. His senses were dialed to 11, picking up the scuttling of Rattata in the ventilation shafts and the hum of electricity in the walls. "Stealth specialists," Sabrina answered, her voice echoing slightly in the cramped space. "They use Gengar and Bayonet to phase through solid matter. Assassins." Ash stopped. He closed his eyes, extending his awareness outward. He didn't look with his eyes, he felt for intent. He felt for the cold, sticky sensation of malice. There, 30 feet ahead, behind a concrete pillar, a void in the emotional spectrum. Down, Ash shouted. He didn't wait. He thrust his hand forward, telekinetically gripping a heavy steel pipe running along the ceiling. He ripped it free and swung it like a baseball bat. Clang. The pipe struck something invisible in midair. The air shimmered, and a figure in sleek, optical camouflage armor materialized, knocked backward by the blow. A Gengar materialized beside him, hissing. Contact. Anabel yelled. She drew a Pokeball. Espeon, dazzling gleam. The Sun Pokémon burst forth, radiating a blinding flash of fairy light. The tunnel was illuminated in harsh white. 3 more stealth assassins were revealed, clinging to the walls like spiders. Kill the boy, one of the assassins hissed. His voice was distorted by a modulator. The Gengar launched a Shadow Ball. Ash didn't dodge. He stepped into the attack. He raised his left hand, his eyes glowing violet. Catch. The ball of ghost energy hit his palm and stopped. It spun furiously against his skin, searingly cold, but Ash held it. He gritted his teeth, feeling the necrotic energy trying to rot his hand. Return to sender, Ash growled. He twisted his wrist and threw the shadow ball back. It flew faster than it had come, slamming into the assassin's chest. The armor crumpled, and the man was blasted into the tunnel wall, unconscious. Impressive, Sabrina noted calmly. She flicked her wrist. Alakazam, psychic. Her Alakazam didn't bother with projectiles. It simply seized 2 of the assassins in a telekinetic grip and slammed them into each other with the force of a car crash. They dropped like stones. The last assassin turned to run, phasing into the shadows. Lucario. Ash barked. Aura sphere. Track him. Lucario fired a sphere of blue energy. It curved around the pillar, chasing the heat signature of the cloaked enemy. An explosion echoed from down the hall. Clear, Ash said, lowering his hand. His palm was smoking slightly. We need to move, Anabel urged, holstering her weapon. That noise will draw the heavy hitters. They sprinted onto the main platform. The magnet train, a bullet-shaped silver locomotive, sat dormant on the tracks. Can you hotwire it? Ash asked Anabel. I can override the locking mechanism, Anabel said, running to the control panel on the engine car. But the power is cut from the central grid. Sabrina walked up to the engine. She placed both hands on the nose of the train. I am the power grid, she said. Violet lightning arced from her body, flowing into the train's conductive rails. The superconductor magnets groaned, then hummed to life. The lights inside the cars flickered on. Get in, Sabrina commanded, her hair floating as the psychic energy poured out of her. Ash and Anabel jumped onto the train. As soon as Sabrina stepped on board, the train lurched forward, accelerating rapidly. They were doing 200 miles per hour through the dark tunnel. The tunnel lights blurred into a single streak of yellow. Inside the first car, Ash paced. He couldn't sit. The energy he had used to catch the shadow ball was buzzing in his system, making him restless. Anabel watched him from a seat. You're shaking. I'm fine, Ash snapped. Then he softened. Sorry, it's just loud. Everything is loud. Anabel stood up and walked over to him. Your mind is open too wide. You're absorbing background radiation. She reached out, placing her hands on his temples. Let me help. I can act as a filter. Ash froze. Her touch was cool, soothing. He felt a barrier slide into place, not a hard wall like Sabrina's, but a soft, permeable membrane. The noise dulled. The anxiety faded. He opened his eyes. Anabel was inches from his face. Her eyes were a soft lilac. Better, she whispered. Yeah, Ash breathed, thanks. You carry a lot of weight, Ash, she murmured, her thumbs brushing his cheekbones. You don't have to carry it all alone. The moment was intimate, fragile. Ash felt a pull toward her, a desire to lean in, to rest. Touching, a voice drawled from the back of the car. Sabrina leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Her expression was unreadable, but the air around her felt sharp. Anabel stepped back, flushing slightly. I was stabilizing him. He needs to learn to stabilize himself, Sabrina said, walking past them. We have company. Ash felt it a second later. A vibration in the tracks that didn't match the train's rhythm. They're on the roof, Ash realized, and behind us, Sabrina added. Through the rear window, they saw lights. Pursuit drones. And behind them, a second train, a heavy, armored cargo hauler, was catching up. "Vance," Ash growled. "We fight," Sabrina said, on top. The wind on top of a magnet train moving at 300 miles per hour should have ripped them apart. But Sabrina erected a psychic windshield, a dome of air that kept the gale at bay. Ash, Sabrina, and Anabel stood on the roof of the speeding train. Behind them, the armored pursuit train was closing the gap. Hatches on its roof opened, and a squad of Null soldiers emerged. They weren't human. "Cyborgs." Ash squinted. "Modified," Anabel said grimly. "Exoskeletons, enhanced reflexes. They don't feel pain." The soldiers opened fire. Energy beams, dark-type pulses, streaked across the gap. "Espion, protect!" Anabel shouted. A barrier of green light sprang up, deflecting the shots. But the impacts were heavy, the shield cracked. "They're boarding," Ash yelled. 3 soldiers leapt from the pursuit train, using jet boots to clear the distance. They landed on the roof of Ash's train with heavy metallic thuds. Ash didn't wait for orders. He moved. He sprinted at the first soldier. The soldier raised a rifle. Ash slid underneath the barrel, channeling aura into his fist. Force palm. He struck the soldier in the stomach. The kinetic impact was amplified by Ash's telekinesis. The soldier's exoskeleton dented, and he was launched backward off the train, disappearing into the darkness of the tunnel. The second soldier swung a vibro blade at Sabrina. Sabrina didn't even look at him. She flicked a finger. The soldier's arm twisted unnaturally, the bones snapping audibly. He screamed. Sabrina gestured again, and he was flung into the tunnel ceiling. The third soldier went for Anabel. He was fast, tackling her to the metal roof. "Anabel!" Ash roared. He reached out with his mind, but he didn't just push. He grabbed. He visualized a hand wrapping around the soldier's neck. He clenched his fist. The soldier gagged, clawing at his throat. Ash lifted him into the air, suspending him helplessly. Ash's eyes were glowing fiercely. He felt the rage, the desire to crush, to snap the neck. It would be so easy. "Ash." Anabel's voice cut through the red haze. "Don't." Ash froze. He looked at Anabel, who was scrambling to her feet. She looked terrified, not of the soldier, but of him. Ash exhaled. He unclenched his hand, but kept the telekinetic grip. He swung his arm, tossing the soldier off the train onto the tracks behind them. "Thanks," Anabel panted. "Incoming," Sabrina shouted. The pursuit train rammed them. The impact threw everyone off balance. Metal screeched. The rear car of their train crumpled. Standing on the nose of the pursuit train was a man. He wore a pristine white suit and a high-tech visor. He held a cane that glowed with black energy. "Director Vance." "Mr. Ketchum." Vance's voice was amplified by speakers. "You have caused quite a mess. Surrender now, and I promise the vivisection will be painless." "Go to hell," Ash shouted. Vance smiled. He tapped his cane. "Release Subject 4." The roof of the pursuit train opened. A creature rose up. It was a Machamp, but its skin was gray, and its eyes were replaced by cybernetic implants. Massive tubes of green fluid pumped into its muscles. "A dark-infused Machamp," Anabel gasped. "That shouldn't be possible." The creature roared and leapt. It cleared the gap easily, landing in front of them. The roof buckled under its weight. "Lucario!" Ash called out. Lucario materialized from his ball, but as soon as he appeared, the Machamp moved. It was faster than sound. It backhanded Lucario, sending the aura Pokémon skidding to the edge of the train. "It's too fast!" Anabel cried. Sabrina fired a psychic blast. The Machamp didn't dodge. It took the hit, shrugged it off, and charged at Sabrina. "No!" Ash screamed. He threw himself in front of Sabrina. He raised his arms, crossing them in an X. Barrier. He poured everything he had into the shield. His aura, his psychic power, his will. A wall of violet glass materialized. The Machamp punched the barrier. Crack. The force was unimaginable. Ash felt his bones groan. He slid backward, his boots tearing grooves in the metal roof. "He can't hold it," Anabel yelled. "Espion, help him." "Alakazam!" Sabrina shouted. Espion and Alakazam poured their energy into Ash's shield. The barrier thickened, glowing blindingly bright. The Machamp punched again, and again. Each hit was like a bomb going off. Vance is getting closer, Anabel warned. The pursuit train was preparing to board more troops. We need to derail them, Ash gritted out, blood streaming from his nose. Sabrina. The tunnel supports. Sabrina's eyes widened. If I collapse the tunnel, we might get crushed too. I'll hold the debris off us, Ash promised. Do it. Sabrina hesitated for a fraction of a second. She looked at Ash, sweating, bleeding, holding the line against a monster. She nodded. Alakazam. Psychic. Sabrina and Alakazam turned their focus away from the shield and toward the concrete pillars rushing past them in the tunnel. She grabbed them. All of them. With a scream of effort, Sabrina tore the support beams out of the tunnel walls. The ceiling came down. Thousands of tons of rock and earth collapsed behind them. The pursuit train slammed into the debris field at full speed. An explosion of fire and twisted metal filled the tunnel behind them. But the falling rocks were catching up to Ash's train. Ash! Anabel screamed. Ash dropped the shield against the Machamp. The creature, confused by the sudden lack of resistance, stumbled. Ash looked up at the falling mountain. Stop! He threw both hands up. For a singular, impossible moment, the avalanche froze in midair above their heads. Ash screamed, his voice raw, as he held up the world. Jump! Ash yelled. Into the service hatch, he saw a maintenance alcove passing by on the wall. Anabel grabbed Sabrina. Lucario grabbed Ash. They leapt from the speeding train. As soon as Ash let go of his focus, the rocks crashed down. The train was crushed instantly. The Machamp was buried. Ash and his team tumbled into the dusty darkness of the service alcove, rolling across the concrete floor. Darkness swallowed them. Ash, Ash, wake up! He groaned. His head felt like it had been split open with an axe. He opened his eyes. A soft light was glowing nearby, Lucario's aura spike. Sabrina was sitting against the wall, looking pale. Anabel was kneeling over him, checking his pulse. We're alive, Anabel whispered, relief washing over her face. Ash sat up. Every muscle ached. Vance, buried, Sabrina said. Or at least blocked. That rockfall sealed the tunnel for miles. Ash leaned his head back against the cold stone wall. We bought some time. You held up a mountain, Sabrina said softly. She looked at him with a strange intensity. I couldn't have done that. Not without an amplifier. I didn't think, Ash mumbled. I just didn't want us to die. Anabel sat beside him, her shoulder touching his. Where are we? Ash looked around the cramped service tunnel. The air was cool and damp. This leads to the old underground ruins, Ash said, recalling a map he'd seen once. The ruins of Alf. Johto, Anabel nodded. We made it across the border. We're not safe yet, Ash said, struggling to his feet. Vance won't stop. He'll dig, he'll track. He offered a hand to Sabrina. She looked at it, then up at his face. She took it. He pulled her up. We need to get stronger, Ash said, looking into the dark tunnel ahead. If Vance has things like that Machamp, we're not ready. The ruins, Sabrina mused. There are ancient power spots there. Places where the unknown gather. If we can tap into that. Then let's go, Ash said. He led the way into the dark, limping but moving forward, the leader. Chapter 3 and Chapter 4. The Hollow Earth. The transition from the industrial service tunnels of the magnet train to the ancient caverns of the ruins of Alf wasn't gradual. It was a cliff edge. One moment, the walls were smooth, cold concrete stamped with municipal serial numbers. The next, they were rough-hewn limestone, pulsing with a faint, bioluminescent moss that smelled of damp earth and ozone. Ash led the way, his hand resting on Lucario's shoulder. The aura guide was necessary. The darkness here was absolute, pressing against their retinas like a physical weight. The air pressure is changing, Anabel whispered. Her voice didn't echo. The rock seemed to swallow sound. We must be miles deep. It feels watchful, Sabrina murmured. She was walking close to Ash, her usual confident stride replaced by a wary, gliding movement. The psychic resonance here is old. Older than the League. Older than us. Ash felt it too. It was a low-frequency thrum at the base of his skull, like a headache waiting to happen. But oddly, it wasn't hostile, it was indifferent. There's a clearing ahead, Ash said, sensing the open space through Lucario's aura sight. They stepped out of the tunnel and stopped. They stood on a ledge overlooking a subterranean cavern the size of a city. But it wasn't a natural cave. The stalactites didn't drip. They were carved into inverted spires. The floor of the cavern was a vast lake of black water, perfectly still, reflecting the ceiling. And in the center of the lake stood a pyramid. It was made of gold and obsidian, humming with energy. The inner sanctum, Anabel breathed. I thought it was a myth, the origin point of the unknown. But Ash wasn't looking at the pyramid, he was looking at the shoreline of the lake. Look, he pointed. Set up along the rocky beach was a sprawling, modular military encampment. Prefabricated barracks, fusion generators, and clean, sterile white tents stamped with the Project Null insignia. They're already here, Sabrina hissed, her eyes narrowing. No, Ash said, focusing his senses. It's quiet, too quiet, there are no heartbeats. He slid down the rocky slope, boots crunching on the gravel. Stay sharp. The camp was a graveyard of technology. Ash moved through the silent rows of tents. There were no bodies, but there were signs of a struggle. Tables overturned. Laptops smashed. Scorch marks on the tent walls that looked like they came from energy weapons, but wrong. The burns were shaped like letters. They didn't pack up, Anabel said, inspecting a cold cup of coffee on a desk. They were taken. By what? Sabrina asked. By the landlords, Ash muttered. He pushed open the flap of the largest tent, the command center. Inside, banks of servers were still humming, running on backup power. The central screen was flickering. Ash approached the console. He didn't need to type. He placed his hand on the drive, letting his electric type affinity interface with the machine. Data streamed into his mind. What do you see? Anabel asked, watching his face pale. Ash pulled his hand back as if burned. He staggered, gripping the edge of the table. It wasn't just a hunt, Ash whispered. Vance, he isn't just killing psychics. He gestured to the screen. A schematic appeared. It showed a DNA double helix, but it was spliced. One strand was human. The other was chaotic, shifting, multicolored. Project God Killer. Ash read the file name aloud. They've been harvesting DNA. Not from wild Pokemon, from legendaries. Anabel covered her mouth. That's impossible. You can't just capture a legendary. You can if you find their remains, Ash said grimly. Or if you hurt them enough to make them bleed. They have samples from Entei, Zapdos, Articuno, and Mewtwo. Sabrina stiffened. Mewtwo? He is the most powerful psychic existence on the planet, if they have his DNA. They're building something, Ash said. A chimera. Something that can eat gods. A sudden noise from the back of the tent made them spin around. A single containment tube stood in the corner. The glass was frosted over. Inside, something floated. Ash approached it slowly, wiping the frost away with his sleeve. He recoiled. Inside was an unknown, the symbol, A, but it had been vivisected. Wires were drilled into its single eye. Tubes pumped a neon green fluid into its flat, black body. It was twitching, trapped in a state of eternal agony. They were torturing it, Ash said, his voice trembling with rage, trying to extract the reality-warping energy. That explains why the camp is empty, Sabrina said softly. The unknown are a hive mind. You torture one, you anger them all. Ash looked at the suffering creature. He placed his hand on the glass. I'm sorry, he projected. He sent a pulse of aura, pure, compassionate, and lethal, into the tube. The unknown's twitching stopped. It faded away, dissolving into dust. A mercy kill. We can't stay here, Anabel said, looking at the tent walls. If the hive is angry. We need to rest, Ash countered. We've been running for 3 days. My shields are cracking. Your reserves are low. If we go back out there, Vance catches us. If we stay here, the unknown might kill us. He looked at the pyramid in the center of the lake. We go there, Ash said. Neutral ground, we talk to them. The causeway to the pyramid was a bridge of black stone. The air grew heavier with every step. Inside the pyramid, the architecture defied logic. Hallways looped back on themselves. Gravity shifted. But Ash, guided by Lucario and his own expanding senses, found the center. A chamber of absolute silence, illuminated by floating, sourceless golden orbs. They collapsed. Ash slid down against a wall, his legs finally giving out. Pikachu curled into his lap instantly, asleep before he hit the floor. Lucario sat cross-legged nearby, entering a restorative trance. For a long time, there was only the sound of breathing. Ash, Anabel's voice was soft. He opened his eyes. She was sitting beside him. Sabrina was on his other side. They were sitting in a tight circle, drawn together by instinct. "You're bleeding again," Anabel said. She reached out, wiping a trickle of blood from his ear. "Side effect," Ash rasped. "Too much noise." "Let us in," Sabrina said. Ash looked at her. The imperious queen of Saffron looked tired. Her hair was messy, her makeup smudged. She looked human. "If I let you in," Ash warned, "you'll feel everything. The fear, the noise." "We are already in," Sabrina whispered. She took his hand. Her skin was cool. "Do not insult us by trying to protect us from your mind." Anabel took his other hand. Ash exhaled. He dropped the mental barriers he had been holding up since the train. The link. It wasn't a conversation, it was a merger. Ash felt Anabel's anxiety, her deep-seated fear of failing the people she loved, her awe of him. He felt Sabrina's loneliness, a cold, vast cavern she had built to keep the world out, and her desperate, burning attraction to the one person who wasn't afraid of her. And they felt him. They felt the crushing weight of responsibility. The memory of Pikachu's pain. The terrifying, intoxicating power of the aura. But beneath the storm, they felt the core of Ash Ketchum. It was warm. It was a fire that didn't burn, a stubborn, endless optimism that refused to die. "It's so quiet," Sabrina thought. Not telepathically, but emotionally, like the eye of a hurricane. "He's the anchor," Anabel realized. The intimacy was overwhelming. It transcended physical touch. They were sharing souls. Ash looked at Sabrina. In the mental space, she wasn't a queen. She was just a woman reaching out. He leaned in, and she met him halfway. The kiss was electric. Literally. Static discharged between their lips, tasting of ozone and mint. Sabrina kissed like she fought, demanding, consuming. When they broke apart, Ash was breathless. He turned to Anabel. She was smiling, tears in her eyes, overwhelmed by the emotional feedback loop. "I don't want to be alone anymore," Anabel whispered. Ash kissed her then, gentle and slow, grounding her drifting spirit. "We're not alone," Ash said, his voice resonating in both their minds. "We're a triad, a circuit." He pulled them close. There was no need for more words. In the heart of the ancient world, surrounded by enemies, they slept in a tangle of limbs and shared dreams, their psychic signatures weaving together into a single, unbreakable knot. Ash woke up to the feeling of 1,000 eyes watching him. He didn't move. He kept his breathing steady. Pikachu was awake, ears twitching. Lucario was standing, growling low in his throat. The golden orbs that lit the room were gone. Instead, the walls were covered in them. Unknown. Thousands of them. Covering every inch of the stone. Eyes. Letters. Symbols. They swarmed over the ceiling, the floor, the walls. The air was vibrating with a sound that wasn't a sound. Intruders. Flesh. Pain. Erase. The concepts slammed into Ash's mind like a sledgehammer. Sabrina and Anabel woke up instantly, scrambling to their feet. "Don't attack," Ash shouted, grabbing Sabrina's wrist before she could fire a psychic blast. "If we fight, they swarm. We'll be vaporized." Erase. The wall of unknown shifted. A beam of distortion energy, hidden power, began to charge. "They think we're with Null," Anabel said, panic rising. "They can smell the human scent." Ash stepped forward. He walked into the center of the room, away from the others. "I am Ash Ketchum," he shouted, not with his voice, with his mind. He projected his name. His identity. The swarm paused, the letters shuffled. Query. Identity. Purpose. "I am here to stop the ones who hurt you," Ash projected. He pulled up the memory of the mercy kill in the tent. The grief he felt. The rage. He showed it to them. The swarm reacted violently. The symbols spun. Killer. Death. You bring death. A massive H symbol descended. It fired a beam of white light at Ash. Ash didn't block it. He absorbed it. He held out his hand and caught the reality-warping energy. It burned. It felt like holding a handful of molten lead. But his aura, the energy of life, wrapped around it. I bring balance, Ash roared. He crushed the energy in his hand, dispersing it into sparks. I am not a scientist. I am not a soldier. I am a master. He flared his power. He didn't try to dominate them, he tried to match them. He expanded his psychic presence until it filled the room, a beacon of blue-violet light. Show them, Ash thought to Lucario, Pikachu, Charizard in his ball. Show them who we are. Lucario stepped up, merging his aura with Ash. Pikachu added his electricity. The unknowns swirled. They were confused. This human wasn't a void, he wasn't a taker, he was a generator. Test. The mind is loud, the will is hard, prove. The floor beneath Ash vanished. He fell. He didn't land. He was floating in a void of white space. Dimensions didn't exist here. Up was left. Blue was loud. A giant eye opened in front of him. It was the collective consciousness of the unknown. Why do you exist? The question wasn't words. It was the unraveling of his molecular structure. If he couldn't answer, he would cease to be. Ash floated in the white nothingness. He thought about Pallet Town. He thought about the journey. He thought about the Tyranitar on the mountain. To protect, Ash said. Insufficient. The white space began to burn him. To fight, Ash tried. Irrelevant. Ash felt his memories slipping. His name. His mother's face. They were being deleted. No, he clenched his fists in the void. Why? Why did he keep getting up? Why did he walk into fire? Why did he challenge gods? He saw Sabrina's face. Anabel's smile. Pikachu's loyalty. He wasn't fighting for a title anymore. He wasn't fighting to be the very best. Because I choose to, Ash whispered. The burning stopped. Ash looked at the giant eye. I exist because I want to, Ash said, his voice gaining strength, shaking the white void. I decide my path. Not you. Not the League. Not destiny. Me. He imagined the white void cracking. He imagined a door. And I choose to leave. He punched the nothingness. Crash. Ash hit the floor of the pyramid chamber hard. He gasped, air rushing back into his lungs. The unknown were still there on the walls, but they were no longer glowing red. They were a soft, pulsing blue. Accepted. The anomaly. The king. The swarm parted. From the ceiling, 3 unknown descended. An A, an S, and H. They floated around him, spinning. Then, they merged into his chest. Ash arched his back, screaming as a surge of cold fire poured into his veins. It wasn't just power, it was knowledge. He saw the ley lines of the world. He saw the connections between space and time. He collapsed forward, catching himself on his hands. His vision was sharper. Clearer. He could see the microscopic fractures in the stone floor. Ash. Sabrina and Anabel rushed to him. I'm okay, Ash wheezed. He looked up. His eyes were different. The brown was gone, replaced by a shifting nebula of violet and silver. They gave you something, Sabrina whispered, looking at his chest. There were faint, glowing rune tattoos under his shirt now. They gave me a map, Ash said, standing up. He felt lighter. The headache was gone. The noise of the world was still there, but now he had a volume knob. He could tune it out. He looked at the 2 women, and they told me where Vance is going. Where? Anabel asked. Ash walked to the exit of the chamber, the unknown parting to let him pass. He's not just building a weapon, Ash said, his voice cold and resonant. He's going to test it. He needs a population center with high psychic variance to feed the Chimera. He turned back to them. He's going to Castelia City. Sabrina's face paled. Millions of people. We have to beat him there, Ash said. How? Anabel asked. The tunnel is collapsed. The train is gone. Ash smiled. It was a terrifying smile. He raised his hand. The unknown on the walls began to spin. The space in front of him warped, twisting into a spiral portal. We don't need a train, Ash said. We take the shortcut. He stepped into the portal. Coming. Sabrina and Anabel exchanged a look. Fear mixed with awe. They stepped through the warp after him. The ruins of Alf fell silent once more, the god of the hollow earth having departed for war. Chapter 4 and Chapter 5. Mind over matter. The portal spat them out onto the roof of a skyscraper, 50 stories above the bustling streets of Castelia City. The transition was instant and nauseating. 1 second, the damp, silent air of the Johto underground. The next, the roaring cacophony of the Unova metropolis. The wind whipped at their clothes, carrying the smell of sea salt, exhaust fumes, and millions of human lives. Ash stumbled but didn't fall. He walked to the edge of the parapet, looking down. Castelia was a canyon of glass and steel, the streets below choked with yellow taxis and hurrying pedestrians. It was vibrant, alive, and completely unaware that it was a target. "He's here," Ash said. He didn't need to search. He felt it, a sickly, rotting sensation in the psychic web, like a tumor growing in the city's brain. The central plaza, Sabrina confirmed, stepping up beside him. She shielded her eyes from the sun. "There's a massive psychic dampening field being erected. It's masking something big. Look at the screens," Anabel pointed. The giant digital billboards that usually flashed advertisements for Castelliacones and battle tournaments were all displaying the same image. A photo of Ash Ketchum. Wanted. Terrorist threat. Ash Ketchum, Class Omega biological hazard. Armed and dangerous. Contact authorities immediately. "They're controlling the narrative," Anabel said, frustration tightening her voice. "If we show our faces, the police, the gym leaders, everyone will attack us." "Vance wants us isolated," Ash said. He watched a police helicopter buzz past in the distance. "He wants us to fight the city so he can unleash his weapon while we're distracted." "So we don't fight the city," Sabrina said. "We fight the tumor." "How?" Anabel asked. "Vance is likely in the center of that dampening field. We can't teleport in." Ash turned to them. The new silver-violet nebula in his eyes swirled. "We split up. A triad assault." He pointed to the north. "Anabel, you're the strongest telepath when it comes to communication. I need you to link with the local authorities. Don't fight them. Convince them. Show them the truth about Project Null. Override their comms if you have to. Get the civilians out of the plaza." Anabel nodded. "I can do that. I'll use my international police clearance codes to hack the emergency broadcast system." He looked at Sabrina. "Sabrina, you take the perimeter. Create illusions. Make Vance's soldiers see things that aren't there. Disorient them. Break their formation." "Child's play," Sabrina smirked. "And you?" she asked. Ash looked toward the center of the plaza, where a strange, shimmering distortion was appearing in the air. "I'm going to pop the bubble," Ash said. "I'm taking the fight to Vance." Ash didn't sneak down. He jumped. He plummeted 50 stories, the wind tearing at his clothes. Halfway down, he didn't slow his descent, he pushed. Gravity reversed. He shot forward like a missile, banking around the corner of a skyscraper, skimming the glass windows. People inside the offices gasped, seeing a human blur fly past. He landed in the center of the main avenue leading to the plaza. A blockade of Null soldiers stood there. They were clad in heavy urban combat armor, supported by 2 modified Metagross. "Target acquired." A commander shouted. "Fire!" Ash didn't stop walking. "Charizard." Ash threw the ball. The dragon emerged with a roar that shook the glass panes of the buildings. Charizard didn't need orders. He unleashed a flamethrower, sweeping the street. The soldiers raised riot shields. "Pikachu, Volt Tackle." Pikachu leapt from Ash's shoulder, wrapped in electricity, and smashed through the center of the line. Ash walked through the flames. A soldier raised a rifle at him. Ash looked at the gun. Jam. The internal mechanism of the rifle crumpled. The gun exploded in the soldier's hands. Ash flicked his wrist. The soldier was lifted off the ground and gently, but firmly, tossed onto the awning of a nearby cafe. "I'm not here for you," Ash shouted, his voice amplified by telekinesis. "Get out of my way." The 2 Metagross charged. They were powerful, psionic tanks. "Lucario." Ash's aura flared. He synced with Lucario instantly. He felt the metal of the Metagross, the cold logic of their minds. Ash extended his hand. Lucario extended his paw. Aura sphere, breaker. A massive, condensed drill of blue energy launched from Lucario. It punched through the first Metagross's defensive screen, flipping the 1,000-pound beast onto its back. The second Metagross swung a massive leg at Ash. Ash caught it with his bare hand. The ground beneath Ash's boots cracked, spider webbing for 20 feet. But Ash stood firm, his hand gripping the steel leg of the pseudo-legendary. Down, Ash commanded. He twisted his hips and slammed the Metagross into the pavement. The impact registered as a minor earthquake. The soldiers stared in horror. This wasn't a trainer, this was a monster. Meanwhile, on the rooftops, Sabrina danced. She stood on the spire of the Game Freak building, her eyes glowing pink. She wasn't fighting bodies, she was fighting minds. Below her, a squad of null snipers was setting up on a balcony overlooking the plaza. Sabrina reached into their optic nerves. "You see spiders," she suggested. "Millions of them." The snipers started screaming. They dropped their rifles, swatting at invisible insects, firing wildly into the air. "Disappointing," Sabrina murmured. She turned her attention to the tanks rolling into the square. "The road is lava." The drivers slammed on the brakes, swerving to avoid a pit that didn't exist, crashing into each other. Sabrina smiled. It was chaos. Beautiful, orchestrated chaos. In the broadcast tower, Anabel was working. She had incapacitated the guards with a gentle sleep powder from her espion. Now, she stood at the main console, her hands pressing against the screen. "Espion, amplify me," she ordered. Espion's gem glowed. Anabel closed her eyes. She didn't hack the computer with code, she hacked the people listening. Across Castelia City, every radio, every TV, every smartphone buzzed. "Citizens of Castelia," Anabel's voice spoke, calm and authoritative. "This is Salon Maiden Anabel of the Battle Frontier. The man known as Ash Ketchum is not your enemy. You are in a combat zone. Please, evacuate the central plaza immediately. Move south toward the docks. Do not run. Help your neighbors." She projected a wave of calm empathy with her voice. Panic, which had been brewing, subsided into organized urgency. The crowd in the plaza began to stream away, clearing the battlefield. Ash reached the center of the plaza. It was empty of civilians now, thanks to Anabel. In the middle of the fountain stood Director Vance. He was protected by a shimmering hexagon of energy barriers. Behind him hovered the weapon. It was a Deoxys, but it was wrong. Its crystal core was cracked and pulsing with black veins. Its limbs were elongated, twitching with forced speed. It was in speed form, but heavily modified with cybernetics. "You made it," Vance smiled, adjusting his tie. "I expected you to die in the tunnel." "I'm hard to kill," Ash said, stepping into the fountain water. "Let the Deoxys go, Vance." "Go?" Vance laughed. "It is free. Free from the chaos of free will. It has a singular purpose." Vance raised a remote. "Kill him." The Deoxys vanished. Ash didn't see it move. He just felt the wind displace. "Shield." Ash threw up a barrier instantly. Crash. The Deoxys slammed into Ash's shield with a psycho-boosted punch. The barrier shattered like glass. Ash was thrown backward, skipping across the water like a stone. He slammed into a marble statue, shattering it. "Too fast," Ash gasped, spitting blood. The Deoxys was already there again. It kicked Ash in the ribs. He heard a crack. Lucario intercepted, blocking the next blow with a bone rush staff, but the Deoxys shattered the energy weapon and backhanded Lucario into a building. "Charizard!" Ash yelled. Charizard swooped down, trying to grab the alien. The Deoxys shifted its arms into tentacles and wrapped them around Charizard's neck, strangling the dragon. "No." Ash scrambled to his feet. He focused. The world slowed down. The silver light in his eyes flared. "The unknown gave me sight. Use it." Ash looked at the Deoxys. He didn't look at the body. He looked at the energy. He saw the control collar embedded in its chest core. A dark, pulsating node of technology. "It's being driven," Ash realized. Remote control. He looked at Vance. The remote in his hand. "Pikachu!" Ash shouted mentally. The remote. Pikachu, who had been hiding in the wreckage of the fountain, darted out. Vance saw the mouse. Subject 4, intercept. The Deoxys dropped Charizard and teleported in front of Pikachu. It raised a spiked arm to impale the electric type. Ash didn't shout. He didn't run. He reached. He grabbed the Deoxys telekinetically. not the body. The space around it. Ash clenched his hands together, screaming with effort. Psychic domain. Zero gravity. A cube of space around the Deoxys turned blue. Gravity vanished. Friction increased by 1,000%. The air turned to gelatin. The Deoxys froze, trapped in the solidified air. It thrashed, but it was like moving through drying concrete. Now, Pikachu. Thunderbolt. Pikachu leapt over the trapped alien. He unleashed a bolt of yellow lightning directly at Vance. Vance's personal shield absorbed the bolt, but the force knocked the remote from his hand. It clattered onto the pavement. Destroy it, Ash commanded. Lucario, recovering from the rubble, fired an aura sphere. It hit the remote, disintegrating it. The Deoxys froze. The black veins in its core receded. Its eyes, previously a dull, mindless gray, flickered to green. It looked at Ash, then at Vance. It screeched, a sound of pure alien rage. Vance's eyes widened. Abort, recall protocol. He tapped his wristwatch. A teleporter beam hit him. But before he vanished, the Deoxys fired a psycho boost. The energy blast clipped Vance's leg as he teleported. A severed foot was left behind on the pavement. Vance was gone. The Deoxys hovered in the air, breathing hard. It looked at Ash. Ash lowered his hands. The gravity field dissipated. He held up his palms. You're free, Ash said softly. The Deoxys floated down. It looked at the control collar on its chest. It reached in with a tentacle and ripped the device out, crushing it. It nodded to Ash, a warrior's respect. Then, it turned into a ball of light and shot up into the sky, disappearing into the atmosphere. Ash collapsed to his knees. The adrenaline was fading, and the pain of his broken ribs was setting in. Sabrina and Anabel ran into the plaza. Anabel slid to her knees, her hands glowing with healing energy. Don't move. You have internal bleeding. Sabrina stood over them, looking at the destruction. The plaza was a wreck, but there were no civilian bodies. We won, Sabrina said, sounding surprised. We survived, Ash corrected, wincing as Anabel knit his ribs back together. Vance got away. He lost a foot, Sabrina noted with a grim smile, and his weapon. Ash looked up at the sky where the Deoxys had vanished. He still has the fortress, Ash said. The Sky Citadel. That's where he's keeping the rest. The God Killer Chimera. He grabbed Anabel's arm. We have to finish this. Now, before he recovers. You can barely stand, Anabel argued. I don't need to stand to fly, Ash said. He looked at Charizard, who was shaking off the dizziness. Vance is bleeding, Ash said, his voice hard. A wounded animal goes to its den. We follow the blood trail. He stood up, swaying. Tonight, Ash declared, we end Project Null. Chapter 5 and Chapter 6. The Throne of Silence. The Sky Citadel was an abomination. It wasn't a building, it was a hovering fortress, suspended 3 miles above the Pacific Ocean by massive anti-gravity engines powered by enslaved psychic types. It was a black, jagged scar against the stars, bristling with turrets and scanning arrays. Ash, Sabrina, and Anabel approached it in silence. They were riding Ash's Charizard and Anabel's Latios, summoned via her frontier pass. They flew. Dark. No aura flares, no psychic projections. Just wind and shadow. The main hangar is open, Anabel projected telepathically. Vance must have arrived recently. The shields are still cycling. It's a trap, Sabrina replied. She was clinging to Ash's waist on Charizard's back. The contact was grounding for both of them. He wants us to come in. Then we oblige him, Ash thought back, but we don't go to the hangar. We go to the engine room. Ash leaned forward. Charizard. Dive. Charizard folded his wings and dropped like a stone. They plummeted toward the underside of the fortress. Lucario. Now, Lucario, clinging to Charizard's leg, unleashed an aura sphere directly at the ventilation grate on the belly of the citadel. The grate exploded. Charizard pulled up at the last second, swooping into the smoky breach. Latios followed close behind. They crashed into the maintenance bay, skidding across the metal floor. Sirens blared instantly. Red lights bathed the room. Move! Ash shouted, jumping off Charizard. They sprinted down the corridor. Null drones poured out of the walls. Sabrina didn't break stride. She flicked her wrists, and the drones were crushed against the ceiling by an unseen force. Anabel covered the rear, her espion reflecting laser fire with psychic walls. They reached the central lift. Ash punched the control panel, shorting the circuits with a jolt of aura. The doors hissed open. "Top floor," Ash said. "The observation deck." The lift ride was agonizingly slow. Ash leaned against the wall, checking his gear. He had 3 Pokeballs left. Charizard, Lucario, Pikachu. His body was screaming in protest, ribs aching, head pounding. "Ash," Sabrina said. She touched his arm. "If we don't make it." "Don't," Ash said. He looked at her. "We make it." Anabel took his other hand. "Vance is desperate. That makes him dangerous, but it also makes him sloppy." The lift chimed. The doors opened. They stepped into a cathedral of glass and steel. The observation deck was massive. The floor was polished obsidian. Through the panoramic windows, the curvature of the earth was visible. At the far end of the room sat Director Vance. He was in a wheelchair, his leg stump bandaged heavily. He looked pale, sweaty, and completely insane. Behind him stood a containment tank the size of a house. Inside floated Subject Zero. It was horrific. A patchwork of genetic material. The body of a Mewtwo, but bulkier, covered in armored plating. One arm was a scythe of organic metal. Scizor DNA, wings of shadow, Darkrai, sprouted from its back. Its face was a blank, featureless mask of bone. "Welcome," Vance rasped, "to the future of humanity." "It's a monster," Ash spat, stepping forward. "It is a savior," Vance corrected. "Psychics. You are variables. Chaos. This is a constant. It consumes psychic energy. It eats magic. It will strip the world of your filth." Vance slammed his hand on a button. "Awaken." The tank shattered. Subject Zero didn't fall. It hovered. It didn't breathe. It simply existed, a black hole in the room. Ash felt his power drain instantly. The air grew cold. The constant hum of telekinesis that surrounded him vanished. "My powers." Sabrina gasped. I can't feel the web." "It's a dampener," Anabel choked out. "A living black hole." Subject Zero moved. It teleported in front of Sabrina. It backhanded her. Sabrina flew across the room, smashing into a pillar. She crumpled, motionless. "Sabrina!" Ash screamed. He lunged, but Subject Zero caught him by the throat. The grip was unbreakable. Ash kicked, punched, but his aura wouldn't flare. The creature was sucking it out of him on contact. "Ash!" Anabel commanded Latios. "Luster Purge." Latios fired a beam of light. Subject Zero didn't block. It opened its mouth, a slit in the bone mask, and ate the attack. It swallowed the energy, growing larger. It threw Ash aside like a rag doll. Ash slid across the floor, stopping near Sabrina. He crawled to her. She was breathing, but barely. Blood matted her hair. "Get up," Ash whispered. "Please." Subject Zero turned to Anabel. It raised a hand, and shadows erupted from the floor, binding Latios and Espeon. It walked toward Anabel slowly. "No." Ash tried to stand. His legs failed him. Vance laughed. A high, shrill sound. "Do you see? You are nothing without your tricks. You are just a boy." Ash looked at Anabel. She was terrified. She looked at him, eyes pleading. "You are just a boy." Ash closed his eyes. He remembered the mountain. He remembered the unknown. "I exist because I choose to." The creature was eating psychic energy. It was eating aura. So don't give it energy. Give it something else. Ash reached deep inside. Past the aura. Past the psychic gifts. He found something primal. Something human. Adrenaline. Rage. The physical will to survive. Ash stood up. He didn't glow. There was no blue aura, no violet light, just Ash. He recalled Charizard and Lucario. "Pikachu," Ash said. His voice was quiet. "Stay back." Ash walked toward Subject Zero. The creature ignored him, focused on Anabel. Ash broke into a run. He wasn't fast like a ninja. He wasn't enhanced. He was just a fit, angry teenager running for his life. He tackled Subject Zero from behind. The creature staggered. It wasn't expecting a physical attack. It had no defenses against non-energy impacts. Ash jumped onto its back. He wrapped his arm around its neck in a chokehold. "Eat this!" Ash roared. He pulled a grenade from his belt, a standard-issue smoke grenade he'd looted from a Null soldier in Castelia. He pulled the pin and jammed it into the slit of the creature's bone mask. Subject Zero thrashed. Boom. Muffled explosion. Smoke poured out of the creature's mouth. It screamed, a digital, garbled screech. Ash was thrown off. He landed hard, rolling to his feet. Subject Zero turned to him. Its face was cracked. Green fluid leaked out. "It was hurt. It can bleed," Ash shouted. "It's biological, hit it with solid matter." Anabel realized what he meant. Latios, use Dragonclaw, physical attacks only. Latios swooped in, raking its claws across the creature's chest. Armor plating sparked and tore. "Sabrina!" Ash yelled, running to her. He shook her shoulders. "Wake up. Throw something at it. Don't use energy, use the room." Sabrina's eyes fluttered open. She saw the creature. She saw Ash, bloody and desperate. She understood. She didn't fire a beam. She grabbed the obsidian floor tiles with her mind and ripped them up. Stone edge. She hurled a barrage of razor-sharp rocks. Subject Zero tried to absorb them, but they were just rocks. They slammed into it, shattering its armor. "Now!" Ash yelled. "Pikachu! Iron Tail!" Pikachu didn't use electricity. He hardened his tail into steel and slammed it into the crack in the creature's mask. The mask shattered. Underneath was a human face. Or what used to be human. It was Vance's cloned face, twisted in agony. "It's him," Ash realized. He cloned himself to be the pilot. The creature fell to its knees. It was confused, blind, and leaking fluid. Ash walked up to it. He didn't use a Pokemon move. He pulled back his fist. He punched the creature in the jaw. Subject Zero collapsed. The room fell silent. Vance, in his wheelchair, stared in horror. "Impossible. You're supposed to be magic. You're supposed to be energy." Ash wiped his bloody knuckles. He walked toward Vance. "I'm a Pokemon trainer," Ash said. "We train for everything." He stopped in front of the wheelchair. "It's over, Vance." Vance sneered. He reached for a button on his armrest. "Self-destruct. If I die, the Citadel falls. We all die." Ash didn't flinch. Sabrina was already there. She didn't use a flashy move. She just pinched. Vance screamed as his finger broke before he could press the button. Anabel stepped forward, slapping handcuffs on him. "Director Gideon Vance. You are under arrest by the authority of the International Police." Vance was sobbing now, broken. Ash turned away. He looked out the window. The sun was rising over the horizon. He felt empty. The unknown power was settling, becoming a part of him rather than a roaring fire. "Ash," Anabel said softly. He turned. Sabrina and Anabel were standing there. They looked battered, bruised, but alive. Ash smiled. Then his legs gave out. He collapsed. He woke up in a hospital bed. It wasn't a regular hospital. It was a private room. The walls were draped in silk. The smell of incense hung in the air. Saffron Jim. Ash sat up. He was bandaged from head to toe. The door opened. Sabrina walked in. She wasn't wearing her gym leader outfit. She wore a simple black dress. She looked softer. "You've been asleep for 3 days," she said, sitting on the edge of the bed. "Did we win?" Ash asked, his voice raspy. "Vance is in a max security psychic prison," Sabrina said. "The Citadel was dismantled. The captured legendaries were released." "And the League?" "They are negotiating," Sabrina said with a wry smile. "They are afraid of you, Ash. You defeated a god killer with your bare hands." Anabel walked in, carrying a tray of food. She beamed when she saw him awake. "Ash." She set the tray down and hugged him carefully. "Hey," Ash hugged her back. "We made it." "The International Police dropped all charges," Anabel said, pulling back. "They're calling you a hero. Again." "I don't care what they call me," Ash said, leaning back into the pillows. "I just want to go home. Or somewhere quiet." Sabrina and Anabel exchanged a look. "About that," Sabrina said. "You can't go back to Pallet. The press is swarming it. And you have Responsibilities now. What responsibilities? Sabrina handed him a tablet. It showed a news report. New faction rises. Ash Ketchum declares sovereignty over Mount Silver? We didn't declare anything, Anabel said quickly. But the psychics. The ones Vance was hunting. They're flocking to you. They see you as a protector. A king. Ash stared at the screen. I don't want to be a king, Ash muttered. Too bad, Sabrina said, resting her hand on his. Power draws power, Ash. You rang the bell. Now you have to answer the door. Ash looked at the two women. His triad. He sighed, but there was a small smile on his face. Fine, Ash said. But if I'm king, we're changing the rules. Chapter 6 and Chapter 7. The new apex 6 months later. The summit of Mount Silver was no longer a desolate wasteland of snow and feral tyrannotars. It had been transformed. Where there was once only jagged rock, a fortress now stood, carved directly into the mountain face, not by machines, but by the collective will of 1,000 psychics. Crystalline spires pierced the clouds, glowing with a soft, rhythmic violet light that pulsed like a heartbeat. It was called the Spire. In the central throne room, a vast open-air atrium overlooking the Kanto and Johto regions, Ash Ketchum sat. He didn't sit on a golden chair. He sat on a simple block of obsidian, polished smooth. He wore a high-collared cloak of midnight blue, trimmed with silver. Pikachu dozed on his knee. To his right stood Sabrina. She wore ceremonial robes of deep maroon, her presence commanding and terrifying. She was the high priestess of the Spire, the teacher of the new generation. To his left stood Anabel. She was dressed in white and lavender, holding a datapad. She was the diplomat, the voice that kept the Pokemon League from bombing the mountain. The envoy has arrived, Anabel said softly. Ash opened his eyes. The galaxy of violet and silver within them swirled. He looked tired, but it was the tiredness of a mountain that had weathered a storm. Send him in, Ash said. The massive double doors creaked open. A single man walked in. He looked small in the cavernous hall. He wore a suit that cost more than most people's houses. Chairman rose, not the disgraced one, but his successor from the terrified Kanto Council. He walked nervously, flanked by two Machamp bodyguards. As he approached the throne, the Machamps stopped. They refused to go further. They sensed the aura radiating from Ash, an apex pressure that made their instincts scream flee. The chairman gulped and walked the final steps alone. Mr. Ketchum, the chairman said, bowing slightly, or, is it King Ketchum now? Ash is fine, Ash said. His voice carried through the hall without echoing. What does the League want, Chairman? We want assurances, the chairman stammered. You have gathered over 500 undocumented psychics here. You have unauthorized legendary Pokemon residing on the premises. The Lugia spotted yesterday. Lugia comes and goes as he pleases, Ash interrupted. I don't own him, we are friends. This represents a significant military threat to the region. The chairman's voice rose, then cracked as Sabrina shifted slightly. We are not a military, Anabel interjected smoothly. We are a sanctuary. The Spire is a place for those who cannot control their gifts. We teach them. We keep them from hurting themselves or others. Like Vance tried to do? The chairman countered. The air temperature dropped 20 degrees instantly. Ash stood up. The chairman took a step back. Vance tried to erase us, Ash said, walking down the steps of the dais. He thought we were mistakes. I am proving we are part of the ecosystem. He stopped in front of the chairman. Ash was not tall, but he loomed. You want assurances? Ash asked. Here is my assurance. As long as the League leaves us alone, we protect the world. If a legendary goes on a rampage, we stop it. If an alien threat invades, we handle it. Ash leaned in. But if you send soldiers here again, if you try to collar us, I won't stop at breaking your guns. I will dismantle your organization, brick by brick. He let his aura flare, just for a second, a pulse of raw, kingly dominance. The chairman fell to his knees, trembling. It wasn't fear of pain. It was the biological recognition of a superior life form. You understood, the chairman squeaked. Good, Ash smiled, the tension vanishing instantly. He helped the man up. Now, please leave. I have training to do. After the chairman fled, Sabrina let out a long sigh. He wet himself, she noted dryly. Probably, Ash chuckled. He stretched his arms. I hate politics. You're good at it, though, Anabel said, walking over to him. She kissed his cheek. Scary, but good. It's necessary, Ash said, looking out at the clouds. The world needs to know there's a line they can't cross. He walked to the balcony. Below, on the training grounds carved into the mountain slopes, he could see dozens of young psychics practicing. Some were levitating stones. Others were meditating with Pokemon. It was peaceful. Do you regret it? Sabrina asked, joining him on the balcony. Regret what? Leaving the journey, she said. You wanted to be a Pokemon master. To travel. Now you are tied to a rock, babysitting refugees. Ash watched a young girl successfully sync with a Ralts for the first time. She squealed with joy. I am a master, Ash said softly. I mastered myself. That was the hardest badge to get. He looked at his hands. The scars from the fight with Subject Zero were faded but visible. And I'm not done traveling, Ash grinned. The spire runs itself now. You two have trained the lieutenants well. Sabrina raised an eyebrow. Are you suggesting a vacation? I'm suggesting a field trip, Ash said. I heard rumors of a distortion in the Alola region. Ultra wormholes opening up. Anabel's eyes lit up. Ultra beasts. That's my specialty. And I have never been to Alola, Sabrina mused. I hear the beaches are adequate. Ash whistled. From the peaks above, Charizard descended, landing with a heavy thud. Lucario leapt down from a spire. The world is still big, Ash said, turning to his queens, and there are still things out there that need to be put in check. He held out his hands. Sabrina took his right. Anabel took his left. The triad link flared to life, a warm, humming circuit of power that connected their souls. Ready? Ash asked. Always, Anabel smiled. Try to keep up, Sabrina smirked. Ash Ketchum, the Psychic King, the master of the spire, and the apex of humanity, looked at the horizon. Let's go save the world. Again. He leapt off the balcony, Charizard catching him in midair. Sabrina and Anabel summoned their Pokemon, diving after him into the blue sky. The legend wasn't over. It had just evolved. The end.